Hello everyone and welcome to the SenseGlove for Unreal Engine tutorials. I am Mamadou Babai, the main SenseGlove for Unreal plugin developer at SenseGlove. In this video, we are going to see how to deploy the SGPlayground Blueprints and C++ example projects, or simply any other projects such as your own that uses the SenseGlove Unreal Engine plugin to Oculus Quest 2. Before we start the video, I assume you already know how to install the plugin for your engine version, and also you have already checked out and run the blueprints and C++ examples from Microsoft Azure DevOps. We have already covered those in separate videos. In this video, I'm going to deploy a sample blueprint. This one is C++ blueprint and C++ project using Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5.2 in order to see the difference, though the difference is not that much, to Oculus Quest 2. Okay, I choose the blueprint project for Unreal Engine 4.27, and also I choose the C++ project for Unreal Engine 5.2. And before we start, we have to basically do some project settings. Keep in mind, please keep in mind that our sample projects have been configured to be deployed to Oculus Quest 2, and you don't have to basically do much configuration. But for other projects, you might just go through the whole process, and it is basically almost a requirement to do most of these settings, but also you could tweak some of those settings according to your own need. So I'm going to start from the project settings, go to edit and project settings in Unreal Engine 5 and also in Unreal Engine 4. And the first thing that you have to check is go to the project description, and you have to check this option, start in VR, make sure it is enabled. Also in Unreal Engine 5, it's at the same place. So this one should be enabled. And also you could go to maps and mods, again in Unreal Engine 4 as well. And whatever map that you choose as the game default map, it's going to be your default projects map once you deploy and run the project on Oculus Quest 2. So I did choose the overview map for my from my sample project, and in addition to that, make sure to go to engine and the input section, and make sure this default touch interface is set to none. If not, please press this clear button and basically clear up the default values. We don't need that for Oculus Quest 2. And again, the same thing in Unreal Engine 4.27. And in addition to that, the next configuration section is the subsection rendering inside the engine section. Here you should go and set this one, maximum number of CSM cascades to render to 2, and these are for optimal settings, and also mobile MSAA to 4x MSAA. And in Unreal Engine 5, it's a bit different, these settings. So you can come here, and here I basically use the same INI file, but it shows this FX AA by default. You could use that one, like there's not much of a problem. You could also switch to MSAA and it should still work. And you could also use the full precision floating points, or basically the half precision. In addition to that, the next important thing that you must disable, otherwise you might get a black screen, is, I guess, in the VR section here, it's mobile HDR, which, as you can see, it's unchecked. By default, it is checked. So that's why if you deploy your project, it's just going to be a black screen. So here, as you can see, also in Unreal Engine 4, it's disabled. And the next section is the Android section here. And as you can see, there's a lot of lots of settings here under the platform Android. The first thing that you have to do is to basically create this, click on this configure now. It just generates like a Android manifest file for you, and also on Unreal Engine 4, the same thing. And after that, you could just name your project. Here, as you can see, we use the package name, SenseGlove SGPlayground CPP for the C++ project, but on the blueprint side, we use SenseGlove SGPlayground BP. So this is the first thing. And the next thing that you have to basically configure is the minimum SDK and target SDK. For Oculus Quest 2, this should be this is the API level. I guess by default Unreal Engine uses some lower API level, but you have to set these two to 29 for Oculus Quest 2. Definitely for Oculus Quest, this one is a different value, so you have to go check out the documentation for that. Also, you have to make sure this enable full screen immersive on KitKat and above devices is enabled. Again, it's enabled on Unreal Engine 4. And then the next settings are in the build section. I'm going in Unreal Engine 4, you get to choose between 32 bits and 64 bits. I'm going to enable only the 64 bits, and I'm going to disable the 32 bits because Oculus Quest 2 is capable of running a 64-bit code. So that's definitely what I'm going for. And here, as you can see, in Unreal Engine 4, you don't have the same option. And we just basically even cannot, this is grayed out. I cannot even check to enable or disable it. And in addition to the OpenGL ES, make sure also Vulkan support is enabled. As you can see here, it's OpenGL ES 3.1, but on Unreal Engine 5, it's 3.2. And in addition to that, also, you have to go to the advanced packaging, and here make sure that you have Quest 2. Of course, you could add Quest for packaging for Oculus mobile devices, but I really don't need that, so I don't delete it because I'm targeting Quest 2. And these settings, actually, the settings we've done is all for Quest 2. And as you can see, again, the same thing, advanced packaging, the same thing for basically here for Oculus Quest 2. And the next thing is to make sure that also you have checked remove Oculus signature files from distribution APK. Again, the same thing on Unreal Engine 5. And also the last step in the configuration settings is to basically click this configure now for the Google Play services. It's also done. Now it's green and it's done. So this was the first step that we had to take in order to basically configure our project in order to be deployed to Oculus Quest. Next, I want to just connect my Oculus Quest and basically deploy to it. As you can see, my phone is already connected, but I don't see my Oculus Quest because it's not connected. And also here on Unreal Engine 4, again, it's the same thing. I see my phone, but I don't see the Oculus Quest. So I'm going to basically, before I connect to my Oculus Quest, I'm going to use the casting feature to share my Oculus environment with you, so you could see what am I doing. It might take a moment. So now we should be able to see the screen. Yes, now. Yes, we can see it. And whenever I basically remove the headset, it's just going to be blank. Now, I'm going to connect it to the USB port. And it's just basically always you have to do this. It just asks you whether you are going to allow the computer to control basically the Oculus Quest headset through ADB. I'm going to allow it. And now basically I should be able to see it inside the Unreal Engines. Yeah, as you can see, in Unreal Engine 5, now I see the Quest 2. And in Unreal Engine 4 as well, I'm going to see Quest 2. But before we proceed any further, also we have some other settings. This one is really important because especially if you use multiple versions of the engine at the same time, you might always get build errors with cryptic messages that you don't understand why. It's because of these settings in the Android SDK section. And also we have the same thing inside the Android SDK section. I'm not going to basically show you how to set up the Android SDK, Java, basically JDK, and also Android NDK. If you basically Google for Unreal Engine Android, and if you come here, probably it's this one, setting up Unreal Engine projects for Android development. As you can see, no, that was about the basically project settings, but here probably not the same thing. I have to type probably Android. Yeah. Setting up Android SDK and NDK for Unreal. And as you can see, if you come here, this is for 4.27. This is the whole process. You have to basically install a specific version of the Android Studio, and also you have to install a specific version of the SDK and NDK per your basically engine version. You cannot use sometimes the same SDK for multiple versions of the Unreal Engine or even the NDK. It's the same thing. How can you check that? If you come here, we always click on the changelog. And if you basically go to the root of the repository, either by pressing this icon or in the file section, here you see a table, which is the platform support matrix. And here, as you can see, version 4.27 comes with NDK R21E, and 5.1 and 5.2, they use 25B, and 5 is also the same thing as 4.27. Also, inside the documentation for Unreal Engine, you could find that. Yes, it's here. as you can see, each version of the engine, they have a like a recommended version. But yeah, the version 4.27, they say the recommended one is R21B, but I've also tried it and it works with R21D as well. So just back to our settings here. As I said, I'm not going to explain how to install this because the Unreal Engine's documentation already covers this in detail. But if we go to this folder, and basically it's here, as you can see, sorry, we have basically installed the proper SDK here. And if we go to the platforms, I guess, yeah, this is platform 29 that is required. You can see it here as well. You could also use the latest and match NDK, or because these are going to be filled by Unreal Engine, like with the latest, or match the NDK version. But I'm just going to use 29 for both SDK and NDK. And also, if we just go here inside the SDK folder, there's the NDK folder. This one is NDK R21E, and this one is R25B. And as you can see right now, my Unreal Engine 5 uses basically 25.1, but also this one uses the same thing. Sadly, when you change that and you close the engine, all these settings are being shared between all versions of the Unreal Engine. So you have to always come back and change this if you use multiple versions of the engine. So for this one, I have to basically copy this hat and paste it here because it was incorrect. And if I leave it at like 25, I'm going to get builders, definitely. We can see it. Just maybe we go ahead and try it to see the builders. But anyway, I'm going to choose here the Quest 2. And as you can see, it just starts deploying. And please keep in mind that the first time you do that, it just failed right away. But this is because of another reason. I will tell you why. It's not the same error we were getting if we choose the wrong SDK. This is also something important about Blueprint projects. I'm going to explain that in a bit. But I forgot what I was talking about. Anyway, let's just fix this error until I remember what I wanted to say. Okay. We are getting this error because we are using blueprints. And the thing is, sadly, because our plugin has some native code, it has to be built for the Android platform. But if you go to the basically your project here, inside the tutorials, it doesn't matter if I go to BP or CPP, and if I go to the SenseGlove plugins folder, here I only have the binaries for Win64, and for C++ projects, Unreal Engine is basically going to build the binaries and just deploy them. But for the Blueprint projects, sadly, that binary is not there for the Android SenseGlove Android module, and it's just going to give us errors when it just sometimes for some versions of the engines like 4.27 or 5.1, it's just going to fail at this step. But for the other ones, like for example 5.2, it's not going to fail here. It's just going to build the project and successfully deploys it. And it's able to basically run the project, but at runtime you are going to give an error. It says like get an error. It says the Android module is missing. So how can we fix that? There's an easy fix for that. We can basically convert this Blueprint project to C++, to a C++ project. You don't have to write any C++. You just have to add a C++ class to your project in order to make it a C++ project. Then once you do that, Unreal Engine will going to build the required files for Android. Inside Unreal Engine file, of course, if you have a C++ project like this one, we already have a C++ project. We don't have to do that. But like this one, if you have a blueprint project, you have to, inside Unreal Engine 4, you have to come here, new C++ class. And once you do that, choose the none option and basically click next and just click the create class. It's just going to add a C++ file class and also a target file, a build.cs, also to your project, and it just becomes a C++ project. How can you check that? If you go here, basically, it's just going to add the source folder. By default, in Blueprint projects, we don't have this source folder. As you can see, it just created the game target and also the editor target, and also build CS files and the classes that it is required. And also, just keep in mind, in Unreal Engine 5, you don't have any new C++ class in the file menu. It just moves to move to the tools menu. So from here, you click the new C++ class, and it's just the same thing. But this actually project is already a C++ project, so I don't have to do that. And as you can see now, our project is a C++ project, and now I should be able to deploy to Android. Again, it just failed. Probably, yeah. As you can see, it failed with the Android NDK version. It says this version of the Android NDK is not supported. And if you are on Unreal Engine 5, and let's go here, and also we try to use the wrong a lower SDK version to see what happens here. Well, I have to again copy the path. Here, I'm trying to use the wrong SDK version, and again, this time deploy to Quest 2. And basically, the thing that I forgot, I wanted to talk about before, yeah, we see another error here, is once you deploy the project to Android for the first time, if it's the first time, it just takes a long time. So you have to be patient. It's just going to build a lot of shaders, and also if you have built your engine from source code, it's just going to build the Android binaries, like the whole engine and also your project. So it might take an hour or so in order to deploy for the first time. But of course, the next times are going to be faster, as I've already done that. It's the same for me. So as you can see now, I'm getting again other errors, but let's go back and fix everything. Use the correct, basically, NDK version. This one is for version 4.27, as you can see. And let's go back and use the correct one for 5. Okay, now I'm going to Unreal Engine 4 and try to deploy from here to Quest 2. And let's see if it's just able to deploy that. Okay. And now, as you can see, it just only builds my project, and it's not going to basically build all those shaders and the engine source code again, hopefully. And it just takes a bit shorter time to deploy it. And see, oh, the casting has stopped. So let me just re-enable the casting. Okay, I think the casting should be enabled now. Yes. Now it's basically packaging the APK, and there's also another step, deploy it, and then there's another one running it. But it's always good to just go to the window menu, and here from here, developer tools and output log. You could see what's going on here. Same thing on Unreal Engine 4, it's just here, output log. Okay, as you can see now, now we are inside the SG playground, and we can see the same thing that we were seeing on PC. Right now, there's no glove connected, and there's nothing really exciting to see here, but at least we were able to deploy the project with the plugin in the full VR mode in Unreal Engine 4 to Oculus Quest. So let's go back and hit the cancel button. This is how we are going to stop it, and do the same thing here from Unreal Engine 5 to see if we are able to deploy the project. Okay, again, it's just going through the same thing. It's just going to build the project. And just please be wary. Sometimes you could get cryptic errors, or the build could go wrong, or things like that. In addition to like checking the settings, always check the settings first in the Android SDK section, especially for the proper NDK version. But you could also get some other errors that sometimes you could fix that by just coming here and inside your project, closing the engine first, of course, and then deleting the intermediate and binaries folder inside your project, and also inside your plugins. The same thing, deleting the binaries and intermediate folders, and trying to basically redeploy the project again. Okay, now the game is packaged, and it's just trying to connect using ADB, and it says creating command line. Now, as you can see here, nice. Now we have like the game environment, and we can basically see the same thing as we saw with Unreal Engine 4. That means our project has been successfully deployed to Oculus Quest on Unreal Engine 5.2. So this is how you deploy basically projects to Oculus Quest 2. And I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial.